All right, so we're back in action here. Kind of bundled up in the garage tonight. I got the heater running, new thermostat. Walked in here yesterday, it was 85 degrees, and I was watching the propane tank suck itself dry. So put a new thermostat on the wall, got the heat actually controllable. But yeah, now it's, show up, it's cold. Come in, warm the place up, work for a few hours, and then head for home. So I'll flip things around here and show you what I've done over the last couple days of just popping in and out of here. So I've got what's left of the OE floor tubs pretty much sitting flat on the frame. They need a little bit of love yet. I left off, I had the front grill riser thing that they made cut down, grill sitting flat. The other day when I was in, I cut these tabs off. I got a messy shop, but cut those off, the bushings out, and got metal on metal for the frame there. There's still kind of some spacer reinforcement piece in there that they used. I just got long bolts to help locate the world. But I think I'm gonna just leave that spacer reinforcement in there, and then modify the floors as needed. So set the hood on, kind of tried to make some minor adjustments to make sure the body here wasn't too out of square with the world. Obviously I got a lot of squaring to do before I start putting cage and stuff in. Did set the windshield on, hemmed and hawed a little bit about the angle of the windshield, if it should follow this body line on the cowl and run straight up, which would put the top of the windshield about 3 inches, maybe 4 inches further forward here. But I think I'm gonna leave it laid back. I kind of like the look, maybe a little sleeker. Sure does make the steering wheel look a little funny being so close to the glass, so something's gonna have to change there. But tonight, I got a couple hours. I figured I'd come in here, clean up the tops of this frame rail, grind off all the stuff that left behind from previous renditions, and when I pulled the body off, that's part of the rear shock mount. Get all these welds cleaned there that I ground off, cleaned up, and kind of get it ready for throwing a quick coat of primer on it just so it stays pretty. And then it's going to be square the frame up from here forward, and then fix whatever's crooked about this back section here. So I know that far corner over there is about a half-inch low, give or take. Again, I haven't gotten the main chassis square with the world yet, 100%, pretty close, but it does droop off a little bit, and I've been trying to play with things to get everything squared up. So that's that. I did find transfer case. I scored a 205 for a steel. It's got a slip yoke on the back, but I've got another transfer case that I'm going to blend in with that one. And that guy came with a new adapter here to replace the cracked one. So I scored that literally 15 minutes away from where I work up in Edgerton. And so that'll make that fix easy and get that whole world tuned up. And now I'll put the brace in it too. I'm gonna add some cross members to the chassis itself. I'm gonna X-brace this whole rear end in. Probably put another one above my lower links, or above my upper links, so that the link's still clear, but I can get it down in there. And then when I come across for my seats, I'm gonna be tying in to whatever tube I run, or I got some 2x6 box tube. I really want to run for an outer because that way it'll hang out, and the wife will have a nice step. I'll put some skid grip tape, something on it, shoot in sticky bed liner. That's going to come out through here and then get braced into the main frame, and then I'm going to come across everything to the other side with 2 bars to mount my seats on. Those bars will be tied into this outer tube, and then I'll probably have some drop down stanchions coming off here as well. So that's all locked in solid, so it'll be caged, to outer tubes to frame to more cage and more frame, and the seats crossing over from side to side should put enough rigidity back into this chassis that the thing was certainly missing. So I'm just going to grind stuff. So it's going to get dirty, it's going to get nasty. I did buy a respirator because I'm tired of blowing black boogers out of my nose for the next week after I grind something like this. So I'm going to don all that gear and start making a mess. Well, we got the whole tail end cleaned off. Got all those old shock tower stubs ground down flat. I got to weld in some holes. They had weak drain holes from tube to tube drilled in there. Got that done on both sides. Ran wire wheel across everything. Got this back lip here smoothed down. They had just stacked another plate on it, welded the gap. So got that radius back in, all the welds ground off. I gotta go over everything with like a finer grit, like a 120 grit ultimately to finish out that. But I'll do that all right before I paint for the final cage and things like that. Go around and smooth everything out. Not like it's really that important, but I guess I could have cut these off while I was there. Forgot about that, but now I got the floor all swept up, got dust mask put away, heat turned off, and I am sitting in a chair. So the find out how good that dust mask worked. That Harbor Freight mask is auto body and particulates mask. The instructions were terrible on it. I put the pink filters on. They were the only ones that were marked not like chemical resistant, so I'm assuming that's the particulate filter. Who knows? Yeah, really bad instructions. I probably could have googled something, but I couldn't smell the grinding dust the whole time. Now that I'm sitting here, I'm smelling grinding dust. I ran the exhaust fan and had the doors open for a minute, and then shut the heat off and stuff. So it's getting cool in here, and that's just the quickie for tonight. So till next time, I'm going to go home, and I bought the bendtech software. I think it's the SE Pro. And then I bought the cage template kit or option to go with it. So I was playing with bendtech Pro, and obviously I have no clue what CAD drawing is and things like that. I was able to make some two-dimensional parts on there, just drawing. It was pretty cool playing with it, but trying to build a cage in their 3D section of that software is well beyond my means and capabilities of CAD. I'm mildly computer illiterate, but I can hold my own. So gonna go home and play with that over the next few days, and then I know I've got to come back. I've got to make some bends with my bender setup sitting there behind me, and check spring back, check the center line radius. I believe it's a 6-inch die, but to program the die into bendtech, there's like a whole process to go through so that your starts, your finishes, your spring backs, your center lines, everything is used properly. So this 6-inch die, center line for my 1 3/4 tube that I have, depending on the quality of machine work and their consistency, that could bend, an eighth, a quarter, hell, even, I don't know, a half, depending on how crude of casting that they're using or how inconsistent they're using from the company that made that die. So they have a whole like cheat sheet you go through, and you make all the couple of test bends, you measure some things, you input some of that, and then it creates like a die library of your own personal dies. And then everything you do then is based off of that specific die. So the inches or the little bits here and little bits there that you lose when you're bending pipe or tube, that accounts for it. So when it needs to go from point A to point B to point C through 2 different bends or 3 different bends, each time you make a bend, you lose length on the pipe, just because of the way it stretches and shrinks the pipe. Tube, we're going to call it tube, because I know on all the forums and all the Facebook pages, it's tube, not pipe, because it's measured ID versus OD, and one you put shit through and the other one you build roll cages out of. But that's a whole argument that I just look at and giggle all the time. So it's just a technical term. I've got all the DOM stacked up here on the floor, so I'll be able to make my test bends with the actual material I'm using. Then I've got some HREW, the welded seam, non-DOM. Same thing, it's just not drawn over a mandrel when it's done. The welding process, DOM does have a welded seam. You just can't see it because of the way they draw it and after they weld it to perfect the size. DOM is just super consistent as far as gauge, dimensions, ID, OD, things like that, where HREW, I think, is the technical term for the standard welded seam tube, is not as true to dimension, just of its manufacturing process is cheaper. So I'm gonna bend up some DOM pieces, do the spring backs and the gauges. I don't want to bend up a lot because it's like $4 a foot. And then the ERW or REW, HREW tube, I'm gonna bend up some pieces in that because I got a fair amount of that, and see if it bends exactly the same. If it bends exactly the same and my dies were close enough, I know that I can use either kind of tubing in my dies. Otherwise, I can also program that die with different materials, gauges, wall thicknesses, things like that as well. So it knows what it's going to do when it gives me a cut and bend pattern. Just playing with it, it seems pretty cool, but I'm gonna spend a little bit of couch time over the next week and start drawing a cage, learning how to use that software. So till next time, do something cool.